So, friends, welcome to the series of geomorphology, and today we will discuss about some factors that are responsible for weathering. If you recollect your last class, we are talking something about this mineral composition, the height and the rock structure, either primary or secondary, which are responsible for weathering. And today we will continue with that, and some other factors have to be discussed here. So, at the fifth one, that we can say it is the vegetation. Vegetation, if you know, nowadays a plantation drive is going on to resist weathering or to counter the weathering. However, geologically if you analyze, vegetation has both negative and positive effect. How? Positive effect means it binds the soil. Mostly the positive effect is felt in relatively flat terrain. However, if the vegetation is there in a sloping surface, it has negative effect. Negative in the sense it contribute mechanical and chemical weathering. Mechanical weathering, that means through the rooted plants, through the roots, it breaks the rocks into pieces, and the chemical weathering, if you remember our chemical weathering class, there is a sphere that is called rhizosphere, where this bacterial activities is there, and through the bacteria, and similarly the plant root, it positively negatively charged, and that is why this is promote chemical weathering. So, mechanical and chemical weathering both is promoted by presence of plant. Then it promotes weathering in increased water retention. We know the vegetation root, it retains water within the system. So, once water remains, and we know the water is the main culprit for weathering. So, once in a rock the water is retained, that means it promotes both physical weathering and chemical weathering. Then vegetation removal increase soil loss. Suppose where it is a negative impact, if we remove the vegetation, there will be soil loss. So, that is why both positive impact is there and negative impact there with the vegetation. Then it is very important to note it here that the vascular plants and the microorganisms, the micro communities, they maintain the food chain of the ecosystem. They maintain the mineral supplements in the ecosystem. How? If you see here, vascular plants and associated microbial communities affect the nutrient resources of terrestrial ecosystem by impacting the chemical weathering that transfers element from primary mineral to other ecosystem pools. So, once we have the vascular plant and micro communities, they or the algae, they are growing on these rocks, they break the rocks chemically into different supplements, different mineral constituents, and those minerals, these free minerals, the free elements, they transfer from one place to another place through physical weathering, through rivers, through winds. So, different agents are there, and one place from these rocks to other place from these earths, that means nearby area, they spread, and finally this nutrient supply becomes uniform, and the supply remains there until unless the plants grows or the micro communities they grow on the rock surface. So, that is why I want to say this micro communities and the vascular plant, they becomes active, they are very responsible for nutrient supply, the mineral nutrient supply to this ecosystem. Then climate. Climate is another important role. If you see here, the climate mostly defined by this heat or this atmospheric condition and rainfall. So, now here if you see the temperature, mean annual temperature, it is -10, 0, 10, 20, 30. Here rainfall in millimeter. Now, if you arrange those temperature distribution and rainfall distribution, the whole earth can be divided into different climatic segments. If temperature is very less than 10 degree, and here this highest rainfall 20 to 50. So, this type of environment, no land area in these climatic conditions on the earth. So, present day climatic conditions, if you analyze and you want to fit on this earth surface, fit in this graph, you will not find this type of climatic condition. However, if you see here, different colors are assigned to define different climatic condition. Here rainfall 0 to 250 mm and mean annual temperature is 20 degree to 30 degree. If you see, very slight weathering of any kind, that means low rainfall, only temperature is there 20 to 30 degree, that means room temperature near about. So, there will be no weathering. But if you see here high rainfall, that means 1750 to 2250, high rainfall and high temperature. Here you see strong chemical weathering. So, that means the rock will be chemically weathered at high rainfall and high temperature, that is warm and humid climate. So, warm and humid climate, they are more responsible or they are responsible for more chemical weathering. Similarly, strong mechanical weathering, if you concentrate here, we have rainfall varying from 1250 to 250 mm and temperature about minus 5 degree to minus 10 degree or minus 20 degree. So, here strong mechanical weathering. So, that means colder the region, colder the temperature, colder the environment, it will promote more mechanical weathering. Warmer this environment, it will promote more chemical weathering, and in between moderate chemical weathering with frost action, slight mechanical weathering, moderate chemical weathering, moderate mechanical weathering. So, depending upon the distribution of temperature, distribution of the variation of temperature and distribution of rainfall, this whole earth system can be divided into different weathering groups or weathering domains, and each domain the product is different. Chemical weathering is more prevalent in warm, wet tropical climates. Mechanical weathering is more prevalent in cold, relatively dry region. Here it is worth to note that temperate regions such as in the central part of this chart undergo both chemical as well mechanical weathering. Here moderate chemical and moderate mechanical weathering, that means here in the central part of this chart, if you see, both chemical and mechanical weathering both are prominent. Then these graphs, if we want to transfer it in the present day earth scenario, we can say here these dots, the color of these dots, they are corresponding to the color of this side figure. So, here you see strong chemical weathering, these regions, that means close to equator. Here 0 degree equator is there, from equator to minus 20 to 20 degree or even 30 degree, some 30 degree to 30 degree latitude, both side north and south, they are more prone to chemical weathering because high rainfall and high temperature. So, warm and humid climate. Similarly, if you concentrated moderate chemical weathering, again here we are going, this is moderate chemical weathering here, here and here. So, moderate chemical weathering is there. So, that means just these two continents are shown here, that means it is valid for the whole globe. Similarly, here moderate chemical with frost action, if you see here moderate chemical with frost action. So, that means those color of this dot that are corresponding to this color of this weathering system here, and these blue dots are here strong mechanical weathering because it is the permafrost region northern part. Similarly, in the southern part also we will get here. So, that means those which are at this close to equator, they are more prone to chemical weathering, and we know the chemical weathering, more chemical weathering, more deeper the soil development is there. So, in the next class when we will talk about this soil formation and this weathering product, we will discuss in detail about this. Then what are these products? So far we are discussing about weathering, physical, chemical, biological, combination of those. What is this product? What is this utility? So, first and foremost product is the mineral deposit. Mineral deposit, there are two types of mineral deposit. One is called primary deposit, which is formed or the mineral formed during the formation of the rock. Another type of mineral is called secondary mineral deposit. That means secondary type of deposit. That means after the rock form, first rock form, then the mineral form. Mostly the weathering is responsible for secondary mineral deposit. So, if you see here placer deposit in particular, here placer deposits, there more placers are formed due to more mechanical weathering. For example, if you see here, suppose we have a van structure, suppose for example, it is a gold van say, and this is the slope face of this hill, and finally, you see this weathering, due to weathering mechanical concentration is there here, and finally, it is going down slope and it is stream placer at the stream bed, it is getting deposited, this is stream placer. So, in terraces we are getting this type of placers. So, mechanical concentration due to wearing of lighter minerals, the heavies remains there, that is called placer deposit, and mostly the heavies, the metals, they are concentrated in placer deposits. Similarly, in the Indian east coast, if we confine ourselves, it is the Bay of Bengal continuously hitting this eastern boundary of Indian subcontinent, and this side is the Eastern Ghat. Eastern Ghat, it is mostly composed of khondalites, charnokites group of rocks. So, from here the heavies like garnet, the monazites, they are getting removed and they are concentrated along the coast zone of the India, and this is one photograph which are showing, which is showing the concentration of the placer minerals along the coastal zone. So, placer mineral deposit in particular, that is very much important in terms of mineral deposit due to weathering. Similarly, in river also different parts, that means these meanders, the inner curves of the meanders, they are also responsible for heavy mineral deposit and particularly gold deposit. Two rivers I am giving you this example, one is called the Markanda river in Haryana, another river is Subarnarekha from Jharkhand and Odisha, and there are many rivers in southern peninsula also. Here these inner curves which are mostly dominated by deposition, here heavy placers, heavy minerals like gold, they are deposited. In Markanda river, people are engaged in gold grain collection. Similarly, in Subarnarekha, people are engaged in gold sand collection, and that is their daily business. So, that means I want to say placer mineral deposit is mostly due to weathering. So, one of this wealth which is adding to the national economy. Here two photographs from Visakhapatnam coast. If you see here, this sand, the coastal sand, this one, the coastal sand, some black and white portions are there, and it is by this wind ripple, and these black portions, they are representing the heavies, mostly the monazites, and we have beach placer deposit at Gopalpur, east coast of India. Similarly, in western coast we have Kerala. So, we have beach placer deposits which are the thorium monazite, which is the main source of thorium in the nuclear mission in India. So, this is due to the product of weathering. Had weathering not been there, this type of deposit might have not been occurred in eastern coast of India. Then residual alluvial ore deposit, alluvial, diluvial, that is one part. These terminologies mostly found in this economic geology term, secondary mineral enrichment. Here in a residual ore deposit, the economically interesting component is concentrated in situ, while weathering removes diluting part of this rock. That means, it is residual concentration. Residual concentration residues, the heavies, they remains at their place, however, the lights they are removed. Example of residual concentration is the bauxite, lateritic soil, platinums, iron ore, nickel, these type of deposits mostly they are the residual concentration. The fundamental geochemical principle of enrichment is that steady activity of reaction front in the soil. So, that is another type of weathering which is mostly responsible for the residual concentration. Here lateritic iron ore deposit, or it is in bauxite deposit in Eastern Ghat, bauxite deposit in Deccan basalt, both are in example of this residual weathering or the residual concentration, where these residual minerals or the least registered minerals are removed and the most resistant minerals they remain there in situ. Here some of these photographs, one is bauxite deposit in the Eastern Ghat and bauxite deposit in the Deccan basalt, both are the example of residual weathering or residual concentration. Then weathering which is found in the chemical weathering, which is mostly the indicator of the Goson zone and mostly indicator of this sulphide mineralization, is also another example of weathering. Goson, you know, Goson is a group of rocks characterized by chemical weathering, oxidized zone, chemical weathering, limonite formation, iron oxide formation. If you see these photographs, this is the characteristics color of Goson. Goson is a group of rock, it is a signboard which says what lies beneath. So, the shape of this Goson, the shape of the boxwork structure, the shape of this cavity, the color of this Goson, that is the product of chemical weathering. So, that indicates what mineral lies beneath. There are many mineral deposits in India, not only in India, in the world, that has been discovered due to this, due to the help of these Gosons. If you see this profile in the Goson, firstly due to raining, due to chemical weathering, their oxidation takes place here, and some of these minerals which are not stable in this geochemical condition, they getting dissolved and going down with water, percolating groundwater. And finally, once they reach the oxidized zone and they go up to the enriched zone, here sulphide mineralization takes place. And in the oxide zone, some of the minerals getting oxidized, and these are the leached zone. That means, here residual concentration is there, and here concentration is chemical concentration is there. This is enrichment zone. Here most of the sulphide deposit like copper sulphide, we have Rampur, Agucha, we have Khetri, these copper deposits. These copper deposits are due to this type of chemical enrichment, or this is due to this type of sulphide mineralization is due to this chemical weathering. So, mechanical weathering and chemical weathering both are responsible for larger mineral deposits. And some of these figures, it is showing the Gosons, and here suppose we have Gosons. There are two types, one is called in situ Goson, another is transported Goson. Both in situ Goson and transported Gosons, they says what type of mineral occurrence or what type of mineral deposit may in the side of these geological localities. For example, if you see in situ Goson, here in situ Goson, depending upon the Goson composition, depending upon their boxwork structure, we can say what type of sulphide minerals are lying beneath. Similarly, these Gosons, they are eroded mechanically and transported downhill, and due to reaction of this water, reaction with the water, near about waters, seasonal ponds, they become red in color. So, by looking the red color ponds in an area, we can guess there is somewhere there is a Goson inside and inside this area, and geological exploration should continue to hit this Goson zone. Once the Goson zone is targeted and once this Goson zone is found, we can say the mineral deposit which is lying beneath by analyzing the Goson characteristics. Then another very important product is clay. Clay is a product of chemical weathering. So, if you compare this Archean geology or Archean environments, you see when there was no sedimentary rocks, there are granitics, granodioritics exposed to the surface, there are pools and pools filled with water. The water was in constant interaction with the beneath the rocks. So, there will be there was chemical exchange, and from the chemical exchange there are clays were deposited, and those clays which are now being used to define such type of structures like such type of potteries and porcelainite basins like that. So, clay is a product, kaolinite, fourthly the kaolinite is the product of chemical weathering. Tiny mineral particles of any kind that have physical properties like those of clay minerals. Clay are hydroaluminum silicates, hydrous aluminum silicates, and those clays are playing very important role for decorative material, from high resistant minerals like high temperature resistant mineral temperature resistant equipment apparatus like this. Then sand, sand is another product, it is a very important product for our sustainable development or for development purpose, and for many industries they use sand for their purpose, we will discuss here. And soil, it is the most important product of weathering. Had soil not been there, there would not have any cultivation or crops. So, soil is a product of chemical, physical and biological weathering. And mixture of mineral with different grain size along with some material of biological origin, that is humus, partly decayed organic matter in the soil. So, that means soil is the most important product to sustain life on the earth crust. And sand, it is used in different industries. If you see here the use of sand, there are number of lists. So, starting from your childhood place, then cultivation, then it is in the oil industries, oil exploration industry, it is in the glass industry, then infrastructure development, everywhere we are using sand for this purpose. So, that means I want to summarize it here that weathering, studying weathering is not only important, how it produces different valuable minerals for us. So, weathering product is very much important, rather than and to analyze this product we must analyzing the process. So, weathering process, to understand the weathering process is important, what type of climate that will promote what type of weathering, and if we are expecting some type of product, we must concentrate ourselves in what type of climate, what type of rock types is there and what would be this product. So, that is why product and process relationship, to understanding the product and process relationship is very much important in terms of weathering, and had weathering not been there, we would not have getting this type of important valuable mineral deposits like copper deposits, like these placer deposits, like gold deposits, like and some other mineral deposits like bauxite deposit, iron ore deposits like that. Similarly, had weathering not been there, there would not have been soil, and without soil we do not have cultivation, we do not have crops, and we do not have cultivation, crops, we do not have life. So, that means I want to say similarly in chemical weathering, if you say, if you remember our Precambrians when talking about this chemical weathering versus physical weathering, that is the chemical weathering, though it plays limited role or relatively limited role as compared to physical weathering, but its role to maintaining the oxygen level in the earth's atmosphere is very much important. So, by providing us food, by providing of water, by providing us this cultivation, the food crops, this weathering, and providing us minerals, this weathering plays important role. So, that is why weathering should be taken seriously, it irrespective of its type, and it's mostly we should concentrate then what type of geological or what type of chemical system is involved the formation of this product from a from a raw material or from a rock. So, this is all about weathering. I think we will meet in the next class. Thank you very much for your concentration. Thank you.